Hey guys, so I wanted to show you in this video how to create a theme selector that will persist the light and dark mode. We'll first start with something simple, where it would just be the themes, and then we'll build out something more advanced, well, with a little bit more functionality, where it adds, where it'll persist the dark and light. And then in the next video, we'll go ahead and add a nav bar with a mega menu like this, and we'll keep the themes. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to open the terminal and we're going to go ahead and cd into a folder you want. I'm going to go ahead and make a directory of, I'll call it theme selector, and then I'll cd into theme selector. And because we're going to be using Nextjs, Nextjs, and tailwindcss for this, I'm going to go ahead and install, or go ahead and create a next app. So npx create next app at latest. And we'll go ahead and code dot that to keep it the same name. We'll use TypeScript, yes, ESLint, yes, tailwind CSS, of course. I'll use the source directory. That's completely up to you. You can use it or not. It's all preference. So I'll go ahead and hit yes for that, and then yes for output router, and no for changing the default import alias. I'm gonna go ahead and wait for that to install. This takes a little bit. It's finished now. Alright, so I'll go ahead and code dot into that to open a new VS Code. Did not mean. I accidentally opened two of them, sorry. Okay. Close that. Resize this. Alright. So we're gonna go ahead and open the terminal here. And we'll go ahead and npm run dev. I'll have to refresh this. And your app should look like this if everything's working. It should be. And then I'm gonna go ahead and clear all this out. Put a div here. Save that. I'll make this word wrap. And then, since we're going to be using Nextjs, go ahead and open another terminal. And we'll go ahead and install Nextjs. And while we're in here, I'm going to be installing Lucid React, because that's the icons package I'm going to use. So go ahead and npm install Lucid React. We're also going to create utility functions. So I'm going to install CLSX with it, and tailwind merge, as well as class variance authority, which we actually won't be using class variance authority in this part of it. It'll be for a later section, so if you don't want to install that, that's fine. But I'll be using CLSX and tailwind merge. Alright. This is running. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit flex call, item center, justify center, height full, width full. And then we're gonna make another div in here, and this one's just gonna be theme changer. We'll do this class text 4XL, font semi-bold, and then I'm gonna add text accent. You're not gonna see anything yet because we have to set this up. But for now, let's go ahead and go to the global.css and clean all this up. I'm gonna add body, so HTML, comma body, comma root, and then we're just gonna add a height of 100%. Simple boilerplate here. And then we're gonna go ahead and go to let's go ahead and go to into the source, add a components folder. And then what I'm gonna do in here is I'm gonna make another folder and call it providers. And then I'm gonna make provider.tsx file. We're gonna use client. And then we're gonna import theme provider from Nextjs. And we're gonna do RFC. Remove the React import. We'll go children, which is gonna be a type React.React node. And then we're gonna take theme provider here. We're gonna put it in here in place of the div, and then we put children inside. Wrap our children with it. Now, if we're gonna add, what we're gonna add at first is gonna be the attribute, which is gonna be class. We're gonna set this up. We're gonna be changing this later on, but for now, we'll add class here. I'm gonna disable transition on change. This is supposed to be capital, that was a mistype. Disable transition on change. And then, what else are we gonna do here? We're gonna set themes, make an array. Now, because we're setting themes, this is going to override our basic light and dark. So you just have to think about that if you're ever going to use this version of the themes. We're going to be removing this later on to make it look like this, because we're going to add our own custom array. But for now, I'm just going to show red, blue, green, keep it really simple. Go ahead and save this. Go back to this. Adjust that a little bit. Okay. Now, from here, we're gonna go to the layout, and we're gonna cut these children out, and we're gonna import providers, or provider, from components providers and provider, and then I'm gonna wrap a div, and then put children inside of that div. Inside this div, I'm gonna hit, or say width full, height full, and px of 4. Okay. Now in our tailwind config, down here, we're gonna add dark mode for class. So we'll apply a class to the HTML here. So if we were to put class here and put dark, it actually wouldn't do anything because I already cleared the global CSS, so that was a bad example. But it's fine. But we're also gonna suppress the hydration warning here, just for little misrendering errors that might apply. Alright, from here, let's see 1 second where we're at. Okay. So here I'm gonna wrap div, do flux call, gap, I'll just say 10. And then I'm gonna put a theme switcher in here. We don't have the theme switcher yet, so we're gonna go ahead and make that. That'll error us out. Theme switcher.tsx, RFC. I'm gonna put use client at the top, because in Nextjs you have to separate your client from your server, and everything is default to server. Otherwise, if you don't do that, you're running the errors. But if you use any client activity on a server page. So we're gonna go ahead and import that now. Okay. Now from here, we're gonna do const mount it, set mount it equals use state, import that from React. It's gonna be default to false. Now, because of how Nextjs works, you want to make sure that it's that this component is mounted to the client before it shows anything. So if it's not mounted, we'll return null. And right before that, you want to add a use effect, so import that from React. And we'll set mount it to true. So now this won't actually render until it's been mounted on the client. That's a way to explain it. But it's probably not the best way to explain it, but it's pretty straightforward, I guess. Anyways, so okay, we're gonna add class relative to this, and then what we'll do here, let's see, we installed Lucid React, correct? Yes. Okay. How to make sure of that. So we're gonna take a button here. We're not gonna add the one and click yet. We're gonna import a paintbrush or whatever icon you want to use. It's completely up to you. Width 20, height 20, text accent. Which still, we haven't defined this yet. We'll be doing that in a second here. Actually, let's go ahead and do that now. So, let's see. Okay, so go to your global.css, and I'm gonna set a couple basic. I'm gonna copy and paste a couple basic classes over here. And this will be for our basic things. We're going to be removing this later. But for now, it's right here. So we're going to say background, foreground, background transparent, primary, primary foreground, primary hover, secondary, secondary foreground, muted, muted foreground, accent, accent hover, border, border accent, import, and ring. It's the same for all of these, just couple different colors here. And then from this, we're going to go ahead and go to our tailwind config here, and we're going to remove the extended background, and we're going to extend the colors instead. So when you extend the colors, it'll give you more options instead of, because if you define the colors outside of the extend, it'll just override it. And also, I want to make note that I get the tailwind complete from tailwind IntelliSense. It's so if you don't have this, I would highly recommend getting this. It's very useful for being able to see over your classes, like so. But anyways, we're gonna go ahead and extend the colors here. So let's see where we want to start. Start with input. So this will be var, input, parentheses, and then we'll do ring, var ring. You can also just copy and paste this from the GitHub link that I'm gonna leave. It'll make it so much faster. It's just a simple boilerplate. We're not gonna do that, so we're actually gonna take the background. I'm gonna make this a function because it's gonna have a couple options. So we're gonna define default first, which is gonna be var background, and then the other one is gonna be transparent, which is var background transparent. Come down, background, and then we'll go foreground here, which is just gonna be background or foreground, sorry. And then we'll go ahead and do accent, which is gonna be an object, and it's gonna have default. Actually, default and hover. Then we'll do primary. Default foreground, and then we're actually gonna have hover too. And then we're gonna go ahead and do secondary, which is gonna be another object, which default and foreground. And then we're going to do muted, which is another object, which is going to be default and not, yeah, it is foreground, sorry. So, and then we're going to do border, which is another one, which is going to be default border. And then we're also going to do accent, which is far, border, accent. Close that off, save that. Alright. And I can see the colors changed. Now, we're going to go ahead and get rid of this class name on the body and the layout. And we're going to input the cn function. We have not created the cn function. We're going to do that now. Let me add this back real quick. Okay. So in the source folder, I'm going to create another folder. I'm going to call it lib. And then inside the lib, I'm going to create a util function, util.ts. I'm going to name it utils. No, it doesn't matter. It's just helps. Import type. I'm going to do class value. And then also CLSX from CLSX. And then we're going to import tailwind merge from tailwind merge. And then we're going to export the function cn, which stands for class name. And it's going to take in, it's going to spread in the inputs, which is going to be of type class value and then array. And it's going to return tailwind merge, which takes in CLSX, and that takes in the inputs. It's just a simple utility function. Okay, and then we're going to go back to the layout. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to import cn. And all this function does is it makes it easier to be able to add in variables. So I can add in, instead of typing out like, sorry, I said that wrong. It makes it easier to add in, how do I say this? Dynamic class names. So instead of doing like a template string where it'd be like $, this, enter.class name, and then typing all this, it'll also, with the tailwind merge, it'll help so you can override the classes without duplicating. That's a terrible explanation, but so I apologize. So we'll go ahead and do BG background and then text primary here. And since it's default to black for or dark for the background, changes this to dark, which helps my eyes. Alright. So now we'll go ahead and start on the theme switcher. So we're gonna do another state here, which is gonna be Dropdown and set Dropdown use state, which would normally be false, but I'm gonna set it to true just so I can see while we're styling it, but we're gonna switch that back. And we're also gonna create a Dropdown ref. So use ref, import that from React, which is gonna be an HTML div element or null. And it's going to default to null. Now, we're going to set this so it's dynamic. If the dropdown is open, we're going to render a div. Oops. We're going to render a div. I can't type. And we're going to put a ref. The ref is going to be the dropdown ref. Okay. So, for this, we're going to add a class name, which is going to be, we're going to import the cn function again. And this is going to be absolute. Transition all. Z of 60. won't really matter for this part, but when we add it to our nav later is where it would matter. Anyways, C60, top auto, and we'll do right 0 for now. And then we're gonna do width of 350 pixels. BG secondary. I'm gonna turn back on word wrap. Alright, so BG secondary. We already have that border accent, P3 rounded MD, and overflow of hidden. So yeah, I can see it here. I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller, or a little bit bigger. Okay. So inside of this div, inside of this div, I'm gonna add another div, which should be a flex call, a space Y3, and then there's gonna be another div inside of this, and we're gonna say customize theme, and we'll add a class name to this, which will be with full font semi-bold. And then right below this, we're gonna add another div, which is gonna be text small, font semi-bold, and margin top of 4, and it's gonna be colors. Now, below this, we're gonna have another div. It's gonna be grid calls 3 with full, and a gap of 3. We also need to import, I forgot to do this, use theme, which we're gonna take the themes, the theme, and set theme. And we're gonna remove this in a little bit, but we're just adding this for now. So we want to go ahead and take the themes, dot map, call this theme option, so it doesn't conflict with any other imports, and then we're going to immediately return this as a button. We'll put a key of theme option, and we'll go ahead and do one click here, and we'll do this set theme, which would be theme option. Make sure you close that, and then we're going to add a class name here. Class will be flex item center, gap x2, border muted, py1 px2, rounded md, text small, text foreground, hover bg background, transition, ease in. I'm not going crazy with the styles since we're going to be scrapping this in a little bit. I just wanted to make it for a basic example. But yeah, so now we have this. We're going to go ahead and default this to false again, so we don't forget. Never added the one click for this. So this one will set the drop down to the opposite of what it was. And good job, the first part is done. So I'm gonna add a little bit more right here. I'm gonna add another hook here before we go on, and this will just be for closing the drop down when you click off of it. So we'll create a function here, client handle click outside, use event, mouse event, which is going to So if the dropdown.ref.current end dropdown, if I can type, ref.current.contains event.target as node. We only add the node part to make TypeScript happy here. So if it's that, then we'll set the dropdown to false. And then below this, we'll document.add event listener, which will be masked down, handle click outside. And then whenever you create a function inside of your use effect, you always want to return so you can clean up that function after. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So we'll do document.remove event listener, mouse down, handle click outside. And just like that, we'll also put this, the dropdown ref, as a dependency of this. But yeah, so basically works now. Alright, now we're gonna add more to it and change up some of this quite a little bit. Let's start. We're gonna start with a provider. We're gonna get rid of all the themes. We don't need this. We don't need the attribute class because we're actually gonna use the data theme. We want to set a default theme so there's no rendering issues. Otherwise, you might get some weird errors. So we're going to start this as light sync, and I'll show you why in a second. We're going to be changing the globals. We're going to remove all this, and I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste my other globals here. Again, this will be in the GitHub repo, so you can just copy and paste all of that. It's the same thing as the red, blue, and green. It's just different names and more of them. Nothing's too crazy about any of these color themes. It's pretty simple. I didn't spend too much time creating these themes. It was very basic little change. So feel free to do with this as you want. So we're gonna go ahead and do that, and then we need to go to our tailwind config. Just right down here, we're gonna remove this dark mode class. Now, I'm also gonna go to my inspect here, and I'm gonna clear my local storage because this can cause some errors with it, and where it won't render anything. I'm gonna go ahead and refresh this. Alright. So we can close this. We don't need this anymore. Our globals here. So our globals, what I wanted to go over is how I named things. I named it like light-zinc, light-orange, and it'll be the same for darks. It's just I'd call it like a hacky way to be able to persist the dark and light with the colors, so the user doesn't have to keep coming up here dark, and if they're on blue, they hit light, it would change them back to light mode, and it would be its own class. So it persisted, I guess. I'm doing a terrible job at explaining that, but yeah. Anyways. So where were we at? Theme switcher. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove themes from up here. We're not taking that anymore, and we don't need to map over it. So go ahead and save that. And then what we're gonna do here, I removed this themes, right? Yes. Okay. So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna define the theme type, which is gonna be, we're gonna do light, which is gonna be an object, and it's gonna take a name, which is gonna be a string, not string the boolean, string, and then it'll be a color, a string, and this will be an array. And then we're gonna go ahead and Shift Alt down arrow to copy and paste that, and we're gonna change this to dark. Do the same thing, and then we're gonna do const themes, which is gonna be theme type, it's gonna be an object. We're going to take light, and this will be an array. Hopefully I'm not blocking it. Okay. And then this name, the first one will be zinc, and the color is going to be just BG white, or BG zinc 100. Then we're going to copy and paste this down. Then we're going to change zinc. We're going to change this to orange. Then we're going to, same thing, down, and then down 2 more times. And on the third one, change orange to red. Fourth one, change orange to blue. And I'm control D'ing, so it just gets the next thing with the same name to make it faster. And then this one will be green. And then we're going to go ahead and Shift Alt down this and turns this one to dark because it's the same things. Alright, now, first, I'm going to change this name from colors, and it's going to be mode. Yeah, so mode. Now, this, we're not going to map over it yet. We're going to make the light and dark mode buttons now. So what we want to do, let's make a button here, and this is going to take the sun icon, so I import that from Lucid React, and that's going to be a class name of width 5, height 5, and shrink 0. And then for the button, we're going to also take use the cn function here, and it's going to be flex item center gap x2, don't mistype that, gap x2 py1 px3 rounded in d, text small, border muted, hover is going to be bg background, and then we're going to add a transition, and that'll be it for now. Because we'll add the dynamic classes that we have to add some more states up here. But under the sun, we're going to say light. And then I'm going to take this button here and copy and paste this down. On the second one, we're going to import moon. And then we're just going to name this dark. Simple enough. Alright. Now, below this button and one div, we're going to add another div. I'm going to copy and paste this div that says mode right up here. I'm going to put this one up here, but it's going to say colors instead. And then right below, I'm going to add another div, and this is going to be grid cals 3 with full gap 3. And then this, we're going to wait. This is going to be where our colors are going to go, but I'm going to wait 1 second. We have to add more to this first. So, yeah, okay. We're going to add another state here, right above the theme and set theme. And this one's going to be mode, set mode, which is going to be use state. And this is going to return it's going to have a function, which is going to be if type of window does not equal undefined, then we'll return the local storage. We'll get item, which will be not theme but mode, and if there's no mode, it'll be light or dark, your preference depending. I would keep it the same with your provider up here if you're starting in light or dark. But then if outside of this if clause, we want to return an empty string if there is no window defined. Now, under this use effect and set mount it, we want to do const stored mode is equal to local storage dot get item, and we'll get the mode. We're going to be storing the mode into the local storage so that there is no issue with if the user re-renders or refreshes, it'll still get it and keep it stored, so it keeps the correct value rather than state where it'll just remove the value. It's the same way how Nextjs works, where it stores it all in the local storage. But then we'll do if stored mode. So if this exists, then we want to set the mode to the stored mode. Else, we want to do local storage dot set item, and it'll be mode, and then it'll just take in the mode. And then in the dependency array, we want to add mode, so it renders every time mode is changed. Alright. That's pretty much for the functionality. Now we're just gonna... Oh, we need to also create another function. Sorry. So below this use effects, I'm gonna create a new function, or a new arrow function, and a mode change, which is gonna be new mode, which is gonna take in light or dark. And we're going to explicitly say that because it can only be light or dark for the new mode. And then we're going to do const selected theme is equal to theme dot split, and we want to split where the dash is, and we want to do it at the array of 1. And then we want to do const new theme, which is going to be backticks new mode dash select the theme. Make sure there's no spaces here, otherwise it won't work. And then we want to do set mode to the new mode, and we want to do set theme to the new theme. So now we're just going to take this handle mode change, and on the on the sun button, we're going to do an one click here, and yep, just that, an arrow function down to handle mode change light, and we're going to copy and paste this down to the dark, or down to the sun button, but instead of light, it'll say dark. And then actually let's add it here. So I'm going to put a comma after the class name on the button for the sun, and it's going to say mode, if mode is triple equal to light, then it'll be border 2, and border will be a border color, border. Because if you remember in our globals, we set a border color, a regular border color. But yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and copy that. Put a comma down below this class name of the moon, and we'll do the same thing, but instead of light, it'll be dark. We open this up. Now it's doing it. Cool. So in this div before, where we created the grid cals 3 with full gap 3, in there below the colors, we're gonna do open brackets, and then we want to do themes, which is gonna take the key of mode, which is as key of theme type, and then we're gonna put a question mark because it's gonna be optional chaining, and we're gonna call this theme option again. Opening immediate return, and we're gonna render another button. The key is gonna be theme option dot name. Don't go inside here yet. Hitting one click, and then we're gonna do an arrow function set theme, and we're gonna be setting the theme to mode plus dash space plus theme option dot name. and then enter, and we're gonna add a class name. It's gonna be a CN function again, and the base is gonna be flex, item center, gap x2, border, border muted, py1, px2, a little bit of padding, rounded in D, text small, text foreground, and then we'll do hover BG background, transition, I spelled it wrong, but ease in, and then comma, and we'll do if theme is equal to mode plus, that's not a plus, plus dash space plus theme option dot name. Then we'll do double ampersand. I think that's what it's called. The double N sign, border 2, and it'll be the same thing, border border. So we're going to save that. We didn't render anything in the button, so you won't get to see anything yet. We're going to do a self-closing div, and the class name on this. We're not going to use the CN function. We're going to use backticks here. That'll be width full, height full, rounded full, border, shrink 0. And then $, ampersand, theme option dot color. We use a shrink 0, so these buttons don't make anything shrink in here. Same thing we did with the buttons up here too, because the padding would cause these icons to get really small. And then below that, theme option dot name, and I must have mistyped something here. Yeah, I didn't add regular border. And why are these colors? Oh, okay. These colors are off because I accidentally added 100 instead of 500 for everything else. So everything besides the zinc, the white zinc, should be 500. This one should be 900 on the dark zinc. We'll do 950 actually. Yeah, 950, and then Control D, Control D, Control D for these 500, and then go down to the dark 100s, and these should be 500 as well. My bad about that. Anyways. But I want to say that's pretty much everything for this. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna go ahead and add this. We're gonna add a little button here. It's gonna say class name, BG accent, height 10, PY2, PX4. We'll do hover, BG secondary, hover, oops, hover, text, accent, border, 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 hover, border, accent, shadow, medium, shadow, accent, and add a rounded medium here, and go ahead and click that add transition, and go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you want to. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next part where we bring back, or where we add the nav menu. Alright, see you guys.